if people join it.
Yeah, I think you should just start it, and then
we can edit the video later.
Yeah, at the beginning, just sort of like, because it's gonna run for 2 hours. At the beginning, just sort of say as and when you arrive, just sort of let me know. Please put a hi and that in the question.
Okay, how do I do that? Because I can't even put, unless I put a chat out.
Once you start saying it, if you're here, just say hi as soon as you come in. I'll post it as a question actually. What I'll do is I'll post a question saying any newcomers, please say hi.
Yeah.
Just let me know that you're here, and if you have any questions, please post them. And then don't answer that question. Answer it.
Cool. Right. Well, it's streaming now to people, so it's going to have 8 minutes at the start of the actual video when it comes to it of me doing that. But we can download it off YouTube and cut it to leave it up. Okay. Perfect. If you are a viewer, just say hi on the questions thing. That'd be perfect, so I know who's here.
The way they do that is they have to go to that 4x4 question thing at the top. But next to your avatar, there's a question mark, and then to the right of that there's a box with 6 squares, a 3x3 square.
Yeah.
You've got to tell them this because I can't tell them this, and then they can hear. And then they've got to click on the Q&A app.
Sorry, can you repeat that and I'll just hold you up to the microphone? I don't...
Okay, so see where your avatar is. To the right of it, there's a question mark, and to the right of that, there's a 3x3 square.
Hi, Nicola. Sorry, we got the ridiculous sound. Hamza, you can't hear a thing on that audio thing from you. Yeah, it's just screeching because everyone's in the room. Can you just email that to me and I'll read it out to people? Cheers. In a second, I'll read out how you use the Q&A format. And that'll be good, because then it'll be easy to use. Sorry about the ridiculous noise from Hamza. We'd had a... It's the other side of the communication going on. It's a bit of a nightmare.
Has the screeching gone?
Yes.
Okay. So now, what I was going to say was, to the right of the avatar at the top, you know, where your username, like, there's a bit that says, say, interactive. Okay, cool.
Okay. Hamza, how many of the interactives are on in that room?
They should be like logging on now. I'm just going to go find out.
Cool. Right, if you tell me who's watching, that'd be perfect. Okay, everyone's watching. So hello to everybody. We'll start in like 2-3 minutes once some more people have signed on. For now, just see me. I'll share the screen actually, so we can go to the right page and start from there.
I don't know. It's there on the left.
So yeah, currently we can see the screen. And that is what we're going to be working with today, to try and turn it into the completed format, which is in the clean data tab. You should all have this data, and if you don't have the clean data tab, that will be fine. I can refer back to it and show you what we are going to be looking to get, but be there in a moment. Should we go? Okay, right.
Just read out the email that I sent you, just
Okay.
in case of people who don't know what they're doing.
Hi, right. To access the thing, at the Q&A tab, you need to go to the right of your avatar at the top, and there is a question mark to the right of that, and then to the right of that there's a 3x3 square, and if you click on that and click Q&A, you should be able to access the Q&A feature of the Google Plus Hangout, so I can answer all questions. And Nicola, I just seen your question, which is now everyone can see. That's okay. and Ben's now promoting that, and that's what's going to happen. So once we start in about a minute, if you have any questions about the steps that we've taken, or if you're using Google Spreadsheets to do this, then there are going to be slightly different commands at one point at least. And
John, can you switch off the YouTube stream as well?
Switch off the YouTube stream.
Yeah, switch off the YouTube stream, but keep open the Google Hangout.
Okay. I think the Google stream's off.
Yeah, no, keep the Google Hangout on.
Yeah, the Hangout's on and broadcasting. The Google's off.
Yeah, brilliant. The
YouTube was off. That's what I think.
Cheers.
Okay, so to repeat that last email again or message, so to be able to ask questions in the Q&A, to the right of your avatar at the top of the screen, there should be a question mark, and to the right of that there's a 3x3 square, and if you click on that, or the question mark, and click on it, and then click on Q&A, you'll be able to engage with question answers. So Hamza, at your end, is everyone able to do the Q&A? Hamza? Hmm?
Yeah.
Everyone can use the Q&A at your end, right?
Yeah, Q&A is working on our end.
Perfect. Right, I'm going to leave that question up for now, and then I think we might as well start because it's 6:05.
I say start, and then when you get to the sort of question break, we can do another sort of register check and just see if everybody's there. Or
Okay.
People have signed on and haven't caught up.
Perfect. Right.
Alright, cool.
So what we're going to do to start with is, if we go into the raw data, first of all, we'll look through the data to see if we understand it and make sure we get through it. So the square I'm currently clicking on, is it showing my screen properly? One sec. Can you see my screen, guys? Hans, can you see my screen? Can you see changes? Can someone just give me confirmation you can see changes on the screen? Because we have lag, obviously.
Yes, it is.
Okay, perfect. Right, so I'm now in spreadsheet. So this figure here, 50,838, I'm currently clicking on, is the total electorate, and that's going to be used for figure. So if we go to the already pre-clean data here, when we did earlier, you can see that in column E, electorate, and that's something we're going to want to keep. But that's one of the problems we're going to have to solve. Then we go through it. There's your turnout percentage, which is currently just a raw figure, not as a percentage. And if we were to try and turn that into percentage immediately, you'd see it's not going to work. So we're going to have to deal with that later. And then we go through the list, and then we have your winning party's vote share, their percentage share of the vote, the other parties, and the total amount of votes cast, which here it doesn't show me because it's 30,000 for this constituency. But if you go on to the clean data, you'll see that actually more votes were cast, total polled, but less valid votes were cast. So this is for spoiled ballots, which is where someone screws up the ballot. I'm sure you know what it is, but we're going to have to find a way to bring them through, which we can solve later. And then basically, we're going to have to get rid of all the empty columns, and we're going to go through how to do that, how to shift the data up, how to use the lookouts to tell us what's going on, and bring in data such as the actual full party name, the administrative region of the constituency, which will be useful when it comes to mapping it, and which will give you extra options on what you're going to map, and the vote winning data and the percentages and the party. So we can go through to that. Now, the first thing we need to do is to start thinking about how we can get all our data into the same column. Because at the moment you have your constituency, so Aberavnon, which I'm clicking on at the moment, but that's in a completely different area. You have your percentage amount of voters below that. So the first thing you need to do is copy and paste all the raw data here into a new tab. Because
you like zoom in a little bit.
What do you say?
You zoom in a little bit.
One sec, I just need to go to the size thing. Yeah, I can do that. How do I do that on Excel? Oh yeah, 150%. That better? Hamza?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Now we're zoomed in so you can see it more easily.
Brilliant.
Okay, so you can tell that at this stage, Aberavnon is on a different line to everything else, and that's going to basically make it impossible to you can't create the clean data which we're seeing here. So there are two steps to first solve this, which is you need to click on column B and insert a new column, which we're going to use in a minute when we're going to get out the voter percentage shares. But then the easiest way to get this through is you see the line, the empty line above turnout MP, below turnout, candidate, including party, and votes. If you delete those and just delete and shift cells up, you'll get that. And it seems really obvious, but it's the easiest way to do it. And then if we go to the cleaned data, we'll see that we're looking for a column of total polled and valid votes. We can't get total polled yet, but we can get the valid votes, and that's not a figure we have. And this again you can solve through, if you click on head and insert a column, and if we entitle that valid votes, we can do a sum of the cells there, and that will tell you the majority below is irrelevant to us, and we could work out the majority percentage share if we wanted to. So that now tells us the valid votes for that region, for that constituency. Now, in effect, what we're just going to do is drag that down to the bottom, or you take it down to the bottom, and while you'd think it would create errors, there are going to be lots of useless figures, but we're going to be able to delete all of them out at a later point in the cleaning. So we're just taking a quick approach to get these figures rather than having to do it manually, and then at a later point we can get rid of all the extra data we're creating to get the key figures we want. So if you select that, and then the quickest way to go down, if my computer forgets it has the rainbow wheel of death, so we're now waiting on my computer to stop hating me. This isn't good. Okay, have a slight problem by the looks of it, that Excel has crashed on my computer. So I'm going to have to reload Excel and then come back to you, which is irritating, but okay, I'll be back in 1 second with the data. I just need to reopen Excel because it decided to quit. So be back in a second. Okay, I just need to come back to the point that you were at. Let's go into the thing. At this point, can everyone see the... Okay, you've lost the screen, so I need to reshare it. Sorry about that. So we're now back on my interactive screen. Sorry, it decided to crash. So we can just get back to that point. One column. Okay, now we're there. Now, the quickest way to get down ever is if you just copy it and then basically, I was not going to select all because it's got the errors in it. This is the error version. So when the quickest way to do this is going to just be to scroll down to the bottom because of the errors, because there isn't a clean set because it's got gaps in the middle. So if you have that, you can't just skip through on the command, but that's just not a massive problem. If we see when we get here. So we now are in the right place where we want to get that, and we'll go all the way up. And then if you, what on the Mac is Command Shift up, it will go to the top thing again. So your original cell, so the last cell with data in it. And if you just paste into all of them, you will then get the results, in theory. And then if you see here, I'm now at the bottom again, and we're looking at it. For Yorkshire East, we have a figure of 51,254 votes cast. But if we highlight and select our other cells, we get again the same value of 51,254. So this is just to confirm that your search has worked. Okay, I'm doing this in the raw data, so I'm going to use the data we are cleaning tab to refer back to, but you just need to make sure that you have two separate tabs with the original and the one that you're working on, like we do here. So our next step to get the data, is everyone okay with that? We'll check first. If anyone has any questions, please tell me now, and that we've all followed this step to get here. Is that okay? Any questions at your end on the interactives line? Oh, sorry, it needs to be zoomed in some more again.
I can give it like 5 minutes just to let the stream catch up.
Yes, sorry, the stream has a big lag on it. So I think it's now caught up.
Also tell them again how to find the Q&A thing.
What do you mean? Oh, the total votes cast. Oh, the Q&A thing. Yes.
No, the Q&A thing, that box.
Yes, the Q&A thing. So again, if you want to ask questions, you go to see your avatar in the top right-hand corner of the screen, whatever it is. To the right of that avatar, at the top, there is a question mark, and then to the right of that, there's a 3x3. If you click on that, there's a 3x3 square, or there's a 3x3 square next to it, and you click on it, the little Google square with 3 little squares, and then click Q&A. You'll be able to ask questions and say what's going on, and if you have any problems with what we've got. Okay, Nicola doesn't seem to have the right data set. So I will email you now, Nicola, with the data set. Sorry. It's G copy. I'm just going to invite you on my personal Gmail to do this, Nicola.
I'll share it with them.
Okay, if Hannah shares that with you. So we're going to just go over this again while we wait for Nicola to get the data. Is that...
I'll also post a link to the data.
Okay, perfect. So if we're looking in the raw data sheet again, the problems we have are that you need to get all the data into one line to create a cleaned table. But ours currently doesn't have that. And you need to create as much data as you can for what you're looking to get. So for us, the total amount of votes cast is 1. Before you start cleaning out and deleting lines, this is because it's just much easier, in a sense, to, even though it sounds counterintuitive, if you make the data slightly messier, slightly more complex with more lines, but in the right way, you can then clean it very quickly once you get to that point. But the problem of really clean data is you've already lost a lot of what you originally had. So in the example now we're clicking on the sheet that we're actually on, you can tell that we've gone and taken the turnout and everything up, and we've now got our total vote share, and we can name it total valid vote cast, as is in the actual thing. And that gives us this figure. Now, to hint at the later one's going to be, is currently this is just a sum of the available figures. So it's not actually a string value. Currently it's a formula, and that's something we're going to have to consider again later, is to make sure that we take out the formulas before we start deleting data. Because if I was going to delete, say, Kerry Francis right now, I'll just do it and undo it, I immediately change all my data and get invalid results. So you have to make sure, if you're using formulas and deleting lines, that you have already pasted them in the fashion which we'll go over later, which allows you to keep the string numbers. And that's what we're concerned with, because formulas do create problems unless you're doing them correctly. Nicola, do you have the correct data set now? Okay, we're going to have to resend the data set. And Hamza, have you shared that link now? To everybody. Sorry about that. But I think it might have been that the one which was shared was a more clean version, but it's better to start from this point because it allows us to cover a lot more problems that we could come across, and allows us to think more about what we're trying to get. And if there's one lesson you need, or you need to think about when you're trying to clean data, it's what do I actually want from it in the end? Because otherwise what you'll end up doing is you'll end up cleaning out too many aspects of it and then not being able to use it. Or like if we had cleaned away the votes cast, we wouldn't know the valid votes cast, or we wouldn't know the majority, and we couldn't even build it in. And we'll do that. We'll add in what is the majority. And while we have a figure showing us the majority here, that figure isn't really of much use. That isn't the obvious figure to use in our top line, because looking at the data, we can see that there are different amounts of parties standing in different constituencies. So in Aberfon, we had 8, whereas in Aberconway, we only have 6. So using lookups isn't going to be as effective for this. But again, if you think about what you're trying to get and look at the data, you see that the data thankfully has the second party always listed below the top party, which is very good for us, because it means that in a similar way to using valid votes cast, we can just simply do a calculation and it will answer those 2 cells below that cell all the way through. So even for this cell, it'll be those 2 cells. And that's another way we can add in the extra data that we want beforehand. So it's not always about trying to use the most complex tool or the most complex formula. It's just, if you can think about the easy and the practical way to do it, a lot of the time it's going to be quicker than trying to use a script to do it. If it's just a simple calculation like votes cast, you could find ways to do that, or the majority again, you're not really solving problems this way. You're just trying to make it too difficult for yourself. And it's the importance of looking at the data before you start cleaning it, which is really important to stress, because then that allows you to approach it in the right way. And if you understand what you're trying to clean and what you're trying to get out of it, you'll do it the best way rather than kind of jumping in head first. That will cost you a lot of time later. Okay, can everyone now confirm that they have the right data set, or if it's been posted out? Because that'd be really useful if you've now all got the data set, and if you're at the point that I was at, or you want me to go back over it and explain how we got to this point again. So any questions would be great to have. Thank you.
Bear with me 1 second. I sent it to Nicola on Gmail. Let her know.
Yes, and there are other people who didn't have it as well.
Yeah, that's going to take a minute because I have to find out, and then I'm going to have to come back to the Hangout again and then send the question. But it will be up soon.
Okay. Oh, while we're struggling to get everyone on uniform data, I guess we'll go back to the raw data, which we can change in mine. So it does that, and so it just looks easy, looks neater. So this is what I'm talking about, where you think about what you're going to possibly want, because it's much easier to get every item, every bit of data you can possibly want, or you could conceive you need, and then delete a column, than it is to have to go back to your original unclean data, because if you've gone too far and saved too far, it's not going to be easy to do. It's just going to be more problematic. And so it's like you don't want to see the clear cells I've got here. The blank cells are going to be really useful later on, but you don't want to jump in and get rid of them all straight away, or even lost deposit column. We're not doing anything with that, or change since 2005. We're not doing anything with that in our column, though we could keep the change since 2005 for the main parties, but we're not doing anything with that data at the moment. But it's easier just to keep on shifting it to the right and then come back to it and just delete columns when you want, than it is to get excited and just jump in and delete the columns or delete blank cells until you've got everything that you want. Because as soon as you start doing that, you start running into problems, as said. And it's, I guess if there's there are two lessons that we're going to try and cover in this. It's good to understand the formula and the tools which allow you to get there. But the most important, and even more important than that, is thinking about what you're trying to accomplish when you're cleaning before you get that, and understanding your data set. Because, yeah, like, and a lot of these figures that, well, if you look at percentage share, now we can get percentage share of the vote back later, but are we going to really need that share, or the majority percentage share? Now that's one that we can probably decide to get back later, but, or if we wanted to keep it. But again, if we wanted to know the majority, so the percentage of share that the majority is, we would be far better off at this stage getting it, because if you were going to do that otherwise, then you'd have to count, you'd have to take them, the votes won, the majority, you'd have to take the majority out of the total votes cast, then do a percentage. It's easy enough to do, but it's just more work. It's got more room for error within the formula, because as soon as you start putting more things in, it gets more complicated. Whereas if you're at a stage where you can just create it, it's perfect. And the example, quite interesting example here, is that I'm going to now expand the amount of cells here, well, they've got this. Now, we look here at our majority. Our majority in this cell is 35.7% of the vote was the majority, but if 51.9 minus 16.3 is 35.6. So this is part of the problem if you start doing things too early, is that while 35.6 would be completely correct as a majority percentage share of the vote, it wouldn't be the one that we've got from the data. So you end up with, it's very important if you think about presenting it, because while it's 0.1, 0.2% on really tight marginal seats, that exists, and that is what the actual majority is. So if anyone was going to look back at the story you'd done and saw that in this data which we've got off the web was from somewhere else.
John?
Yeah?
You go back a bit. The screen has stopped. Or can you pause for a bit?
I've not been doing much. I've just been talking. Until I know everyone's got the data, I thought I'd just talk about principles.
Yeah, just literally the question. So for anybody who hasn't got the data set, there's now a link to an unclean data set, and they can work off that. But make sure to tell them that they need to make a copy that they work off. And they don't work on that.
Yeah. Okay, so we've now got the data sheet here. And the new data sheet. So we'll go back to the start pretty much, because what we took no time at all. And I'll take us back to the start. But what's really important is to get a copy of the data. So I'll go into my Excel document now and just copy my original raw data sheet and open up a new tab. It's not crashing. Good. And call this the data we are cleanings. So it doesn't, you can't have two tabs of the same name. And I'll delete my original clean data tab, and then I will work in this one. And you can tell I have one data sheet here, which is the one I'm working on, and then my original sheet. This is really important because it allows you to always check back to what you're going to, and it allows you to use functions on the original data set called like a VLOOKUP or SUMIF, one of which we'll come to later, to be able to pull in data into this column. But it's really important to have a reference point in case you make mistakes. So if everyone now has the data, can they post a question just kind of confirming that? And I have highlighted this, the original data set, the correct data set for you. And so if anyone can post that, that would be perfect if they have questions. As a question to tell us that they've got it, and then I can answer you. So does everyone have the hands? Does everyone at your set end have the data now? Are we clear to restart? If people could tell me that, that'd be perfect.
Wait one second, I'm just going to make the data set public, because otherwise they're going to have to keep emailing me to be able to access the data.
Okay. Sorry about this, guys. Okay. Well, we're going to go back to the point we were at for anyone who's joined late or didn't have the data set. But the instructions here aren't too confusing. And we'll just go look at the original clean data to kind of see what we're trying to get to at this point. So you want to have a constituency which is cleaned and accurate and has no spaces at the end of it, because when it comes to mapping, it's important to have everything as neat and as clean and as trimmed as possible, because it makes...
Make it public on your end. You click on the share button and then make it public.
Okay. I need permission to access it. You need to do it, Hamza, because it's your data, isn't it? I'll try on my Gmail, but
on Google Sheets, like go on Google Sheets and then go on the share button and then make it public.
I don't own the sheet. I don't own the sheet. It has to be the sheet owner can only do that. Are you the sheet owner, Hamza? One second. Hamza, I'm going to email you a copy of this, which I'm the owner of. Actually, maybe I can do it in this.
Email to who?
1 second. Hamza, you're the owner. You're the only person who can make it accessible, but... I've got my own copy. I'm going to email to you, and I'm going to change it to an open copy. And I'm going to email that to you, and then you can post it in the chat. Have you done it now? You just need to go into advanced options and share. It's fine. Have you got it now?
No, not yet.
I've emailed it to you. So basically, data is going to be reposted by Hamza. Once we get that, he gets the email from me, because you just need to create an accept. I've emailed you as a link. I've emailed you a Google spreadsheets, and the publicity is shared to the world. And that's, you need to go into share advanced options, and that's what does it. Okay. Okay, we're going to start back up again now. I think everyone has the data. I don't know. But this is, okay, we're going to go back to the main document now and start working. So I'll come here and I'll zoom into 125% so I can see and you can see. Okay, our first thing is here. This is the majority figure. This is the amount of voters in the constituency. And we're going to want to get that out at some point, but I'll show you how to do that in a second. But we're going to need that value still here. But if we click on column B and insert a new column, that will give us something to do that with. Then our next issue is everything needs to be on the same line as the constituency name if we're going to get the clean data like we had here. So what we're going to want to do is, this is again about being data being really easy to do if you think about it. or just think that the obvious answer works, if you just go on that, delete, and shift cells up, you'll get that into a line. So then there are two more things that we're definitely going to want here. There's one more thing we're definitely going to want, which is the total amount of votes cast and the majority. We can get the percentage share if we decide we want to, but I'm going to leave that off for now because I don't think that it really tells you as much, and 35.7% is a much more abstract concept than 11,000 votes when they got 16,000 votes. It's a more useful figure. So what we're going to do is click on H, so lost deposit, we're going to create two more new columns, and this will allow us to work with them. So for our first question thing we're going to do is total is valid votes cast. This is not spoiled ballots because they're different, but if we look in the clean data, we see valid votes and total polled is a different figure. And these are the spoiled ballots. So we can't get this figure, valid votes, at any later point once we get rid of this data here. So we're going to have to do that first. So what you do is you just go equals sum and there. Let's try the original thing. Sorry. This is actually going to work as well as I hoped. Oh, sorry. Right. There's a problem with this. Okay, we do have a problem with this, but I don't know how I'm sorry, I was just a complete mind blank. I've forgotten how I did this originally. Okay, right. There is an easy way to do this. Oh God, I've completely forgotten. How did I do this originally? That's bad. Okay, sorry, I've got confused about something. Right. Okay, we'll return to that in a moment because I've completely lost my head and got really confused. Or is the data? I'm sorry, I've just got. Anyway, what we'll do is we'll work out the majorities first. So majority column. This can't. Perfect. So majority. The majority figure is. This is that mine is your F3 minus your F4 for Aberavnon, because that is the total amount of votes cast in that area. And that is the, would you say?
Can we make the top question the new link so that everyone can basically follow it? And because you're working off that same sheet, they can follow it much easier.
Have you got the new question hasn't been posted?
Yeah, so I've now posted the question. The new, like my latest question is the data set.
Yeah, it was the top question, but that was the one you had hidden. Or have you solved that now?
I've solved that now. So now everyone can access it.
Okay. Well, we got from that. I had a mind blank, but.
Cheers, John. Appreciate it.
Oh, dear God. I've completely forgotten how I'm going to solve this. But okay. Let's see how it goes. So majority. So your majority is. Just in case anyone doesn't know, we'll just quickly go over the eccentricities of first past the post. The majority is not the amount of votes compared to the amount of other votes cast. It is simply the amount of votes you have compared to the nearest party. So if you had someone on 5,000, 4,999 and 4,998, they would have a majority of 1, even though they'd only have just 33.34% of the vote. we can get that figure quite easily here without having to extract it from the F12 cell by doing votes minus that. Now that'll be consistent the entire way through, because the Excel will only ask the question, what are the next two cells doing? So if I just drag it down this far, see at this point, you'll see that I'm still getting the correct majority, because it's just asking the question of who in that cell goes below that cell. And it's the same question, but we'll be able to clean it through without that.
Can you make sure that everyone knows that the data set that is the one that they should be working off?
Okay, does everybody know that this data set which has this data is the data which everyone needs to be cleaning? And if you don't have that, please post a question, and or you're doing it on something different, please post a question and I can answer that problem for you. Or we can work out the solution around that. And it'll be easy. This was a mess of cleaning, actually. Okay. 1 second. Right. So is everyone at that point and can confirm they're there? And I can do that. I'll just check on the Hangout. So Hamza, does everyone have this data, which is the cleaned, the raw data?
There's more people working on it, so I think like most people signed up. That's good.
Okay. Now we do have a problem at some point, but I can't. I need to think about how we solve that. So we're going to do that in a second. So what you're seeing here is we're getting lots of random figures, like 623, and value and messy stuff like that. That's irrelevant and isn't going to cause any problem for us when we clean later, because we're going to use a different column to delete from, which is one of the important principles, is that it doesn't make a difference if you make a bit of a mess in a column, as long as your accurate value, so for us majority, is correct, isn't problematic. Now we now need to copy it down. Now there are easy ways to copy down normally, but here it's a bit of a mess, because you see we've got these blank cells, means you just can't do a way to shift down. But so we're going to have to scroll down to the bottom to get to this point. So, and you can see I'm just scrolling down, but when we get there, we'll be able to copy it up. And then if you press on what is, I'll go to the bottom one, so 2005 column, just to make sure we have it. It'll make a difference. On a Mac, it's Command Shift up, and because then it's now going over the blank cells up to this point and to the next recognized value, or next where the cell is full, you'll just be able to paste them all in and you get your majorities. And you can go up to the top by doing the same thing and then just clicking. Now, valid votes is going to be a problem for us, because it runs into the problem we were having when we were thinking about how we calculate, or if we're thinking about how we calculate shares of the vote, is we have 8 parties here, which is 30,958, but we have gaps. And the example would be to see here of why this is really going to be a problem is this is an important thing to do, is if you can find out about what sort of problems you're going to encounter later by just doing a couple of tests in squares and then deleting it. So I'm just going to show you what the actual amount of votes cast was here. That's odd. Okay, we've got. Sorry, that's weird. Okay. Maybe that. No. Okay, that's odd, but that's not a problem at all. Okay, that was different on the other data we saw, which might be explaining why people have been getting confused. I don't know how we have this rejected votes column at this point now, though. 1 second while I solve this problem, because this is bad. Yeah, shit. Hamza, do you know what Ashley is? Okay, well, we'll be able to do this the easy way then, but then we're not going to work out valid votes, which is a problem. But
John.
Yeah?
Someone posted a question. They've asked, is the results sheet the same as the clean data sheet?
So I need to see that.
So, like, you know, in your Excel sheet.
Yes, the results sheet is the exact same information you need as the clean sheet that I'm working on. I'm just calling that, no, it's my, so the data we're cleaning is the same sheet as the results sheet. The cleaned data is the example data set which you were sent originally. And
so basically, made like another tab, you've made a copy of the exact same data and you're just working off it so you know the difference of what you've done.
So I have a raw data sheet which is the exact same as your results sheet, and then I have a data we're cleaning sheet because it allows me to look back and get the exact results. In effect, it just is a confidence measure in case you make a mistake which you can't undo, or you want to refer back to it later. You don't want to have, it's just always good to have your original data there next to it. And we're also going to use it for a different function in a moment, which is really important. So basically, you always want to have your raw data, and it answers a lot of problems for you. Okay, though, this is the weird thing. I don't know how we're getting that. Ooh, that's bad. Anyway, so now back into the main sheet and the data we're cleaning tab. So we have now got majorities for each constituency on the line that we want. So the next question is, how do we get the line? How do we get the amount of vote constituencies in B? Now, this is again where you use a function to do this, is the quickest way. So if we use what's called the VLOOKUP function, it stands for vertical lookup. It will look up a value, so in our case A4, and look at it from your different raw data tab. And that's, but if we type in equals VLOOKUP, then the value we're looking for here, that's not good. And then, no, Excel's been weird. Anyway, your table array is basically the data you want to go over. Oh my God, something's gone really wrong. Anyway, sorry, I'm saying something's weird. Okay, the value we want to find is always this, and it will go down. And your table array, oh my God. Your table array needs to be, I always just do this general click on raw data. You can do it in other ways. You can select every column. I just prefer to select the whole table because it's quicker and it's easier. But it's not liking me. And then you add, and then your column index numbers, it always has to be from one column. We want to go for column 1 because it's A, and you're then offered true or false. You always want to put false. The true function never works. And then you see here we've got 50,838 has been moved into this line. Before I look at the questions, I'll just put in, you need to put in $signs here, because $signs hold, sorry, wrong way. Just leave it for now. Leave $signs for now and come back to why we need them. Okay, and I'll look at the questions. Okay. No new questions? That's great. So now at this point, now the reason we're getting ref is it's now changed to the wrong formula. So this is where you put $signs in, because $signs just hold the range that you're looking for in place. And you see now, if I scroll down, so it's not doing that. This is odd. Oh, it's working perfectly. So yes, you now see the $sign is creating lots of, again, messy, non-applicable problems. But again, that doesn't matter because we're going to solve that later. It's just how it is. But we're getting the 40,593 put into the next line next to the constituency area, which is exactly what we want. Because otherwise you'd have to go over 600 constituencies and do that manually, and this is the quickest way to do it. So we now need to copy and paste it down. Now, the way I'm going to get this done is I'm going to cheat and go across to majority, which is the only one where it's all the way down. Select that, and then click here in column B, then select up and paste. Oh no, it's not paste. Yep. And you can see now we're in column B and we have got all of our constituency size data next to the column. And this is really important because we're now able to start thinking about how we're going to do some other stuff. To recap over this, we used what's called the VLOOKUP function to look for. So our first line then is the information you want. In our case, what we want is the total amount of constituents, so the size of the electorate. Then you need to select where you're looking for this data from. In our case, that's the raw data tab. I would suggest you select all of them. People do it in different ways. It doesn't really matter. Then you need to put the column number that you're looking through. In this case, it's 1, but if it was in column D, you would put 4. It always has to be a numerical value. And then you put false as the logical argument, which basically just means, it doesn't really matter. You're never going to use true because true doesn't work very well at all. And then the reason we have a $signs, as we saw earlier when we scrolled down, we had a reference error because the data set became flawed. Well, we're actually just, the $signs just, they lock it in place. When it scrolls down, nothing changes. When it's pasted, nothing changes. And it's a really useful thing to be able to do. And then we went and pasted it all through, and we now have our constituency names. So I guess the next thing to do is calculate the valid votes cast, which is really very easy now. But the first thing we'll do at this point is, and so you should always look to do, is we've got formulas in column B and in column I in mine. So what we don't want formulas really sitting in the data, because that makes, basically it means any change you make, as I covered earlier, will be deleted. So you should do at this point is select all your data and copy it. And then, I think it's copied, mine, I'll just copy again. And then you go into your top cell, and this is how you do it on Excel, go into paste special, and paste as values. And when you paste as values, it just pastes what's contained in the cell in terms of the string rather than the formula. So we now, if we look at column B, we have not applicable, we have numbers. We have actual numbers, and that's going to allow us to perform calculations and not worry about losing stuff. The other values we've got are irrelevant. So we now want to calculate valid votes. There are two ways you can approach this on the data we have. I'll look to see if we have any questions first. No, we don't. Perfect. Okay, there are two ways you can do this. Now, the problem here is that our percentage figure, turnout, we can say that now and just make that click.
Go back over your shortcut again. It was a little bit quick.
Well, the shortcuts and how I skip down through the information.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I explained VLOOKUP, but if not, I can go over it again. But I'm going to use it again later. But one of the shortcuts you do, so if you copy a cell, now the problem is that we've got 5,000 lines of data here, no, 6,000 odd lines of data. That takes a while to scroll through. But if you use the command shift down, you can select all the values in a row, and you can start crossing, and I'm clicking using the left now here to cross them. So it automatically takes me to the bottom of the data, which is really useful. And then the easiest way to get around that is if you then click into the set line you want. So we're here in B. And then if you do the same thing, but with the up arrow, so command shift up on a Mac, it selects all the data. And then all you need to do is paste it in. And basically, it saves you having to drag down, because dragging down is slow. It pulls it around. It basically allows you to navigate the Excel about that. And here we're running into a problem of it, which is why the initial time I had to drag down is I'm here in column C. You go up to 64, then you go up to 768. Basically, you're skipping to all the string values, but because there isn't a continual fill, you can't do it. A way around it, if you wanted to, would be at the first run of your data, you would create you'd create one line which was always full of a value, and that would help you navigate around the spreadsheet more quickly. I didn't bother to do that. It's not really necessary if you're only going to do it one time, but if you had a huge data set, it would be worth doing to create the consistent line. You're still going to have that problem. It's just easier, to be honest. But it's not as much of a problem in Google Spreadsheets, because Google Spreadsheets go down to the point of the data, as Excel goes everywhere and has many more cells in it. So Excel is a much more powerful tool, but it can be harder to navigate and use. Okay, now I think we'll return to valid votes, if that's okay. If anyone has any questions, please put them in and I will come back to answer them. And I can solve your problems quite easily. Though we do have one problem because of the data, but I'll come to that later. Okay, we now want to do turnout. So in data we're cleaning, we're going to put turnout percentage just to make it clear what we're doing. The turnout says 60.9. Now that's really obvious to all of us. That's percentage turnout of 60.9%. But if we go into Excel, it's 6,090% because the percentage has to be entered as a value of 1. So you want to put in 0.69 to get that as a value of 1, which makes it harder to calculate our valid votes, because if I just did, so I'll just turn this into a percentage again, actually. If I did B times C, I get that as my percentage, my valid votes. Actually, if you can see, it has 3,960, and if we go to our clean data, it's starting to get the right amount, but it's going too far. It's not working. It's roughly the right figure. God, where did this data come from, actually? Anyway. So actually what you want to do is go back into this cell, take it into a normal numerical value, a general value, and if we do it what you want to do is to use, you can just basically turn it into the correct size by dividing it. And for each, it's a single row calculation, so you can drag it down. And if you divide it over 100, you then get 3,960, which is where we're into the next problem of how to add these up. So this is a useful tool for general cleaning, but here where we have specific values, and it's one of the problems of percentages. These percentages are rounded, which isn't what we want, which is why you get the difference of 2 people out. So we're now running the problem. We've got 30,958 votes here to 30,960 votes there. Whereas if we look in the clean data, as it tells us again, we have a total polled of 31,469, which I don't know where that came from, but we can solve. And we have a different valid votes figure. So what we need to do is to think about how we can basically get all the data here. So to go over the problem again here, however, is if we just do a sum of 3 numbers, we get 30,958 for here, but for Aberconway, because we have 7 values in this formula, actually no, it works. I don't know what I'm thinking about. Double check it works. Sorry, I think I've getting confused myself. I've been doing that too much today. Don't go drinking at the weekend. Oh yeah, it works perfectly. I knew it worked. Well, it doesn't quite work, but it does. This is a problem. One second while I think about this, just to make sure that it's coming through. Right, anyway, what we're having a problem with here, and this is me being slow, is that we're getting vote figures, so here 35,849 cast, but they're not showing up because you can't add up each cell. You can't use a standard drag down to add up each cell because there are too many. It's the problem that you have with this data is there's no single amount of MPs in each constituency. You can't just because there's 7 candidates, there's 8 candidates, there's 4 candidates. It's a real problem. So I'm going to let everyone catch up now to this point while I remember how to solve this, because I solved it earlier and have since forgotten, which is stupid. No, I haven't solved it. Well, okay. Hamza?
Yeah.
Can you send me the original data?
Right.
Can you send me the data where you got it off the website, please?
Okay.
Because we're looking at this and then we're running into the slight problem of there's actually not an obvious way to do this. I can think of right at this second. So what we're going to do while that comes through is we'll create a new column because we can see that there's a problem with incumbent party names and names having stars after them. Now, I don't think that's particularly useful information, but we don't really want to get rid of it at the same time, and we want to have the flexibility later when we come back to do it. So if we just create a new column with this data, so in column E here, to the left of D, we can then use a different tool. And this is one of the times when Google Plus and Excel differ, or Google Spreadsheets. So if I select E and go to Data, Text to Columns, I can then look for what's called a delimited error change. And basically, if I put star, it will split this out. But wait, you need to replace the contents of the cells. So again, the way you get around this problem is just if you...
the data set that I put into that is the original. So if there is a question, so you can just highlight it and get that data.
Okay, did you email it to me?
Okay, go ahead.
Because then I can look at it. Okay, so I've just created 2 extra columns because it looks it's just best to be on the safe side rather than have to go back and do it all again. But that's why it originally happened. I originally left it so we'd have this problem. And on Google Sheets, you use what's called split. So it's equal split, and then you need to select the cell you're going from and what you're splitting it on under delimited. If you have problems with that, please post questions and we can look at it. But anyway, so what we can see here is we now have 2 different values. So I'm going to say our H. Francis, our Labour MP for Aberfnon, has 1 star indicating he's an incumbent MP and 1 not. This is just good practice because when you're coming to present your data and visualize it in CartoDB, you can do that. And you can just select one of the lines you're going to do, or you can create a copy and delete that line and delete this column. But we have used the tool text to columns or in Google Spreadsheets of split because we now, if we don't want to know who the incumbent MP, if they were an incumbent or not, we don't have to, and we don't have a random star, which if people were looking at it would ask someone would inevitably ask the question, why are there some people with stars? Why are there some people without stars? It's not a particularly useful piece of information, especially because one of the more useful pieces of information, you might say, is who was the incumbent party rather than the incumbent MP, because lots of MPs stand down, die, or change at points. Or they get kicked out and they're not selected. It's not that much useful information. So we can again go and use VLOOKUP here. If there's any questions on that, I'll just cover it. Okay. And we're going to look for Labour, who won in 2005. I think that's a more useful question, or it is certainly at least a useful question to get, because it allows you for more comparisons. I think you'd be better off having the candidate and who won in 2005 and their current party, because that would tell you the shifts, rather than not having the incumbent party. In our clean data, as we prepared earlier, we actually don't have that, and we don't have the MP, but we could do that. We could change it. It's all about how you present it, but I would argue strongly you'd be better off doing at this stage is to get them all in a nice row, nice and presented, and then you can delete to get to our clean data as it is, rather than have to go back and change it. So we're now going to see who won in 2005 and basically continue the process of getting all the data from these cells below into the single lines with the constituency. And we're going to do here, which is equals VLOOKUP again. But this time we're looking up A13. Then we go over to the raw data again, which is going to be in column 1 again, and false.
John, I looked at it. It's the same data. The one that you sent me is the same data as the data that like I got from the election commission.
Okay, then.
I think maybe actually was comparing it to a different data set. That's how you might have ended up with that specific figure.
Ashley.
Just continue.
Okay, we've got a problem here. I don't know what the problem is here. Sorry, I've just been flummoxed by that because we've now got a slight problem that the data that we are meant to be reaching to seems to have additional information which I didn't know about. So, hey, but what do you know? Anyway, okay, what we're looking for is to get to the 2005 or who won in 2005. Now, what we're running into the problem here is if we use the standard VLOOKUP we used before, this is getting, I'm tired. We run into the problem that it's not coming through into that column because, again, while it should be looking up here, A23, it's looking up A22. So basically, it's because we started too low or something. Oh, I don't know what's happened. It seems to have gone odd. But if we went up, I don't actually know what happened here. I'm sorry. I've kind of got confused. You know what? We'll look at that later while I try to get to this, because at this point we have a real problem. Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break while I have go get a glass of water. A 2-minute break while I go get a glass of water and think about how we're going to do this and where we're going to go to next, because my plan's slightly been flummoxed by the data we didn't have. Okay, we'll do that. Okay, we'll just go this way. Okay, we're going to get that data in a bit. There's ways we can do this, but we're going to have to get it in a bit once we've got rid of the votes. And now the votes is the real problem, because I need to think of a solution here to get this, but all right. The valid votes, because we're getting some valid votes, but we're not getting others.
What's the problem?
The problem is getting the amount of valid votes classed, the actual number, because of the way the strings work. That it doesn't, you don't have enough MPs because you've got 5. You can't just use a sum to do it. I could VLOOK it up actually. No, you can't, because the sums won't exist, and if I did it in the raw data, I'll just have a look in the raw data column. But this is basically, I don't know. This is the problem of actually haven't got the information from somewhere else.
Yeah.
If you find him, we could understand what the hell's happened.
Okay, he deleted all the blank rows.
Yeah. I know what he did, but I can't think of the way he did this. Let me try one more time. Okay, we're now back on me while we solve this problem because, yeah, I don't know exactly what's happened here. Unless I did that.
Is the 50,000 the number of valid votes, or is it the total electorate?
It's the total electorate, but the problem is, as we covered earlier, I'll go back to sharing the screen actually. I'm just sorry, I'm not thinking, I can't think of, I know how to do, there's a way to do this obviously, but it's not happening for me right now. So if we just look here in turnout, it's just an example. The problem is that 50,000 died by this to create your total shed. You get 30,960, whereas the actual number isn't that. You can tell this. I don't know how he's done it. I can't think of what's happened here. And this is the thing. This is one of the things that's important to remember about cleaning data, is that there are ways around things. Sometimes you just forget and or can't remember what's going on. But it should be there. That's it. Okay, what we'll do is a good approach when you encounter any problems but can be solved is that we're going to take a copy of this, of all our data again, and put it into a new tab, another new tab, and then we're going to continue working on it.
It's a different data set. It's from like a different source. If you just use it for comparison purposes.
Okay, mystery solved. That's from a comparison set, so we can't get that in an obvious way of this, but I will try and work out a way as we go through it. But I'm going to open, as you can see on the screen, I have now got a new tab which will allow us to go through the information as we go and work at it, basically. We can then, if we find a way to get the valid votes, we'll do that later. But the problem is simply at the moment, it's just not working. I don't know why. But so to recap, we've now got, if we look at the clean data, we've now got the electorate, the turnout, the winner votes, the winner percent, and the winner party, and they're all in what we want. They're all in our column. This is ridiculous. They're all in the data we're cleaning. We now just need to work out a way to get it in. So our first thing, as you see, is the constituency names look a mess, and they still look a mess. So we insert a new column at B, and we use the tool I referred to earlier, text to columns, to solve this. So if you open up, if you select all of A, and this is split in Google Spreadsheets, and click on or enter your formula, and again you need to be delimited. Delimited just basically means it doesn't matter where it occurs, it's you're just looking for a fixed character to work with. Go next, and we're going to go for the square bracket, and it will open here and finish. We're going to need some more cells, sorry, I'm going to do that. Just give myself the security because this isn't going well. And I didn't need them, and now it's just split out the constituency names, gone, and this is again just delete them. This is one of the occasions where that information is completely gone, you don't need it. But if we now click on Add Revenue, we now have the problem. If you see here, I shall recap that. Does anyone have any questions about that? No. So if we now done that, we've now got to the point where we've split that. So you need to select them, and you use text to columns or the split function on Google Spreadsheets, and it will split the data for you. And it will get rid of that. But if you see here, we've now got the problem that you have nasty, you've got spaces afterwards, which will make it more difficult when it comes to visualize the data. So there's a function in Excel called trim, and it will get rid of any characters at the end of it. And if you go that, and now you see we've done that, but we have Aberevnon, which is perfect. Well, we don't have Aberevnon, which we're going to have to go down, but our value would just be that with no characters in it again. So you can also use a function called equals clean. Equals clean performs the same function as trim, apart from what it does is any characters that Excel can't recognize are deleted. This is useful for some data sets where if you've imported them, they'll have lots of weird characters in. That can clean them away for you, and we don't have them here, so we're not going to use it, but it is a useful one to have. We could just look at it here. But basically, the clean removes any non-numerical values, or any non-numerical characters, or any numerical or alphanumerical, sorry. But that's how you'd use it if you want to use it, but here we're only going to use trim. You can combine them. I'm not going to bother. And then you want to copy it down. So we're going to, it's the same way we've copied down everything, which is go across to a cell which has values all the way through it, and Command Shift down, and then click next to it, because it's easy, and go up and paste. And you'll see that we have, again, lots more redundant values, but that's not a problem. We don't want them. And we go back up to the top. And again, we have the problem of that we have just a cell data here, not accurate data. We have formulas, not the string data. So we want to copy the entire set row, and again, go for the paste special function, which will replace it with the values rather than the formula. Apart from I paste with the formulas, so I need to do it again. and now we click on our and there's no spaces at the end of it. And so now we've got lots and lots of redundant columns. We can start to get around it. So we want to rename our column here constituency. Go back. Any questions? Please post them and I'll answer them. Is everyone on track? Hamza? Are you all on track? And if there are any questions, we've now basically cleaned the data as far as what we have will allow us to go. But then we can probably do some interesting figures with it. And we'll still be able to get a valid votes cast to an approximate figure. And to be honest, you'd be more than, I know it's not ideal, but if you want just to put it in for comparative purposes, it wouldn't make a huge difference because it will still give you relevant data, and we're not performing statistical analysis on this. So 60.9% of 5838 is going to be 30,960, but we can come to that later, and it really won't make too much of a difference. We do have a problem with a valid votes cast and the votes cast, but we don't have a real solution to it on this data apart from manually adding it up because the parties are different in the constituencies. So our next focus is we now have our constituency, and if we rename this to be electorate, and then we're going to now have all this data here and everything. We don't need valid votes cast. We now have all the data we need for these columns. So what we're going to want to do is use a filter on, we can delete our general election results 2010 actually, because that column, we've taken all the data out of that column and put it into a more organized, clean columns. So we don't really need it. So we can just delete that if you keep the top thing. If you copy A1 to B1, you'll still get the column at this point. And as you can see, because we've always pasted as values, we're not going to need that either. So now we have the problem. We've still got lots of random cells and random redundant cells. So the first step we'll do to get that out is we're going to need to do a filter. Now, if we look at data, the filter has to be a column which is perfect for us. And the advantage is our turnout column happens to be that. Though we still could usefully want to get that off, but I can't. I'm just going to check that from here. We might be able to now. Oh, it doesn't matter. We'll just leave it. We'll just get it to this point. Okay, so our turnout has lots and lots of blank cells, but the blank cells are just covering information we've already got and we don't want anymore, which is going to be important. We don't need to know that Kay Davis from the Lib Dems came second in Aberfan at this point, and we don't need that. We just want to find a quick way to delete it. So if we put a filter in, and if you filter on Excel, you can go down to the bottom and select all but blanks. Or another way you could do it, actually that's a good way, this is the best way to do it, sorry, we're not going to do a filter there. We can solve our problem through this. Yeah, I think we can do this. What?
Can you do like the quick check of the formula? Like click on like a cell that's got a formula on there, and then can you click on the bit where you check the function? You know, like the fx bit next to that.
There's no formulas left anymore, but I can get one up. What formulas do you want?
It doesn't matter, any formula, because currently I can't see the formulas that you're using.
Here now?
It'll take a minute for it to show actually, but I don't think it's going to show. So later on, can you after the webinar finishes, I think we should do like a reference index sheet with
I've got that coming out for Interhacktives anyway. I've written it. I've got that coming out on Interhacktives anyway. I've written it. I just need to post it up. I need to put the data in. We've already done that. I've already done that. That can go up tomorrow. Or later tonight. Of all the functions.
Cool.
Right. Okay. Now, the way we're going to do this is I'd still like to get our 2005 results, but we can't currently do it with our data. So we're going to do a different formula here. We're going to create a new line. I'm going to call it, is it blank? Because we're going to use the formula is blank. Is blank asks the question, is that cell empty? And you drag it down. No, it doesn't. Oh. I have no idea why that's not working. Okay. This is odd. Okay. 1 second. I'll try to know what I've done wrong. It never does that. One second. I've kind of mucked up this formula, and I always do this. I always do this for some reason. If it's blank, I somehow manage to get the formula wrong. But there you go. Despite the fact it should be true. Sorry, this is really odd because there's something on my Excel which does this. Anyway, the point of it is blank, and it should be working on yours, and I'll work exactly how I'm going to change it, is that you're asking the question, is the cell blank or equal? And it will tell you, it should tell you that those cells are not blank, but for some reason they are. Interesting. Okay. What we're going to need to do here is, what I've worked out the problem is, there's a space in all these cells. So we're going to have to do trim again on them, and it will provide you with an answer. And just copy that. Okay, for some reason the Excel's putting that in, so I don't know why it's decided to do that. It should be working. We might change it to is text. For some reason mine has decided that it's going to have values in it. Okay. This is weird because this is why we did a clean function on it. This is why we trimmed it. It's run into this problem. I cannot for the life of me tell you why. But there's another way we can do this. Okay, right. I've just looked across. There's another way we can do this. Okay, now what we would be doing otherwise is we would be getting rid of them this way, but if it worked, it would work perfectly and beautifully. So constituency. We don't need this. So, right, my Excel's been weird. I can't tell you why, but there is a way we can do it. What we look for now is we have none applicables here, and we can just filter on this column. That should have worked. If we just put right down to the bottom, you see hashtag NA and blanks. We get rid of them. We now have data which tells you exactly what you want for this. So we're now we can now do a VLOOKUP on this. And because it's got consistent gaps, it's not going to be a problem. So now what we're looking to find here is your 2005 winners. And we're going to pick this cell, B13. Actually, I have to delete beforehand, sorry. Actually, we're going to go the reverse way around, and we're going to deselect all and get rid of all but the blanks in this row and the non-applicables. We're going to delete all of them. So you select everything here. This is the redundant data. It isn't telling you anything. I'll double check that actually, since the whole thing's gone terribly. Yeah. You don't need any of these. So we're now going to get rid of, we're going to deselect them all. And we're going to select non-applicables and blanks, so just these cells. Apart from I can't click at the moment. I told you, I've gone mental. So we're going to deselect all and just select non-applicables and blanks. And it's where there's no all the problems. And if we select all this data, and you can do that by going into one of your columns here, which is all your data, down to the bottom and selecting across. And you can delete all of this and you just do back, going to clear contents. And okay, at the moment you have no results. We don't need those columns. We don't need this column anyway. And actually, I'll just go back to the filter. And then suddenly, oh, that shouldn't have cleared all, sorry. You just want to delete all these cells. Apart from I made a mess of that, my fault. If you delete the cells, don't worry about, you're not going to delete everything you have. Sorry, it needs to go from here. You're not going to delete all the information because the filter has hidden that information away. On Excel, it's one of Excel's really useful functions, is you can delete all this stuff, go up to here, and then select all your values again, and suddenly it's back and you've got rid of all that nasty, messy, redundant data. And we're going to use the same trick in a bit to get rid of more data lines. But it's just a trick. It's all about, you can use the same process. As long as you filter accurately, you get rid of, you can delete tons of rows of data at the same time. So this is going to be 2005 winner, and hopefully this is going to work this time because nothing else has worked. So you use the VLOOKUP function. Hope you can see it in the column, and our lookup value is going to be B4, but it's going to go down this time. And then we're going to look up B4 in column. And then we need to go to the raw data and select that. I'm going to select all of it though because I prefer to do that. And put your things in. And we need to remember that the column it's in is column 1 and then false. And then you should. And then we see we're suddenly getting, when we put it down, oh, it's still not working. Oh, it is working perfectly. Now we're getting our 2005 winner to come through into this cell. And that's basically, we tried to do that earlier, but what we were running into was the problem of there being too many different values, which was the problem we ran into on how do we access the data. How is the problem we ran into on how do we calculate the total number of votes was the same problem here because it was making a mess of our VLOOKUP. We've now solved that problem by cleaning the data out, and we can now tell who's won in everything. So if we go and the same method before to copy, we select that copy of that cell, having written the formula as VLOOKUP, your B4 value, so 2000, which is 2005 colon space lab for the winner, and raw data column on tab on mine, all of that, 1, which is the column you're looking at for in, and false. And then you are going to go into B2, go all the way down, click on your last cell, select up and paste, and suddenly we have the winners. Now, at this point, the data is getting there and it's starting to look really good, but not quite there yet. So our next problem is going to be how do we get rid of all the messy data. We can now do this with another filter. Did everyone get that point? Sorry, I'm not very good at stopping. And so we can now clean this with another filter. And the filter, you just need to go A to Z ascending. And you can tell, sorry, just clear that filter. It seems to have done it for all the columns. Right, you just want to clear the filter. We only want to filter in one column because otherwise it applies all the principles. So we want to do ascending again. Actually, we'll just go for, I'm tired. Right, filter this column, and we want to do 8 ascending, and then that will produce. No, I don't want it in all of them. I don't know why it's deciding to hate me now. Anyway, I'm just going to filter this table, this column. Sorry, A, filter, and A to Z ascending. Okay, that worked earlier. Okay, it's now not working. Yay. Cool. All right, anyway, we'll get rid of this on blanks. First of all, we'll filter out blanks on this column. We're not going to do that. We're going to filter out blanks. Oh, I know what the problem is. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Earlier on, I harped on about the importance of using paste special. This is another occasion you need to use paste special because this is why it was confusing me and I was just being really stupid. If you go here, paste special, values, okay, you then get rid of your VLOOKUP and then you can now use filters better because the filters more accurately because the filter will actually work. So we can now deselect all, A to Z ascending, and it should, for our column here, And now we can go down here and so you've actually got the raw data we've cleaned at the bottom and all these redundant cells up here and all the useless stuff. So if we can just select up it, well, it would work. Okay, you can do this the quick way, but I'm going to do it the slow way because nothing's working. I kind of just want to get it done accurately. So you go here at the speaker, drag across and just drag up the top. You'll delete all the random data and then you'll get your data into a form where we can start to make it into a pretty table, having gone through all of it. And again, we're just looking at all the random redundant data that we've cleaned out and not needing any more through the old lines and irrelevant statistics. So we've got this selection now, and we delete it, and then we are left with, we clear the valid votes. We are, and remove the filter, we now have much closer to what was on the clean data tab. In that we have the raw data, our raw data has changed completely from being a mess and with everything in different lines. We now know the constituency, the size of the electorate, who won in 2005, which we can now delimit out and split to a more pretty function, to a cleaner function without the 2005. The candidate's name, the turnout, the candidate's name, if whether they're incumbent or not, their party, the votes for them, their percentage share of the vote, their majority, and we don't need this data here in K to M on my data, so we can now delete that as well. Okay, now at this last point, the last 3 things we need to do for this, I think, are 4 or 5 things. Is we can delete who the 2005 winner was. We can edit this. So we need to insert a new column if you're ever going to use text to columns because it splits on a value. And we're going to do text to columns, delimited, space without the other, and finish. And we now have that, and we can just change our description up there, 2005 winner, and we can delete the column C. And therefore we now have a nice, easy column 5 winner, which looks much cleaner, and you can tell instantly where the shifts have been, which is an important part of anything. And then now I think you want to know, everyone knows that lab, most people know that lab means Labour, so on, but people might not know what DUP means or PC means. So we can do a full party name addition. And this is again where you use the VLOOKUP function, which is why it's perhaps the most useful function in Excel, is you're now looking at G3, raw data, not raw data, sorry. We need to go to a different column. So now we have our party abbreviations column here, which tells us what which tells us what the abbreviations are, and now we're going to look for them in which is column 2, because it recognizes that false. No, it doesn't. Sorry, I made a mess of it because everything's going wrong. And you can tell it's brought through Labour Party because it's looking for the tag lab with in this cell data, and it's only the column. So anything which is tagged lab, whatever the column is, as long as you select that, you'll succeed in doing it. So it's really not that bad, and it's really useful, and it's basically allowed us now to get the full party name. So we can now drag this down. the same method we've done before. Command Shift down, click on a cell, go up, and paste. And sorry, my error. I'd forgotten to change the formula. You need to remember to insert the $signs because that makes it accurate.
Welcome to the EE voicemail. I'm sorry, but the person you've called is not available. Please leave your message after the tone. After
Now we have, by doing this, and we can also paste it as values, so we don't have the problem of it being deleted. Through using the VLOOKUP function, we have now got a clean data set, and it tells us that there are which exactly the full party name is, and we can also use the same principle to get out the constituency. And we'll create our new region tab. And we have a region identifier. The constituency will be our region identifier. An additional data that we found tells you which constituency a region is from. So here your largest local authority is column B. So you're going to want to put in equals VLOOKUP again. That is your constituency. You go to your regions. It doesn't like selecting that, so I like selecting them. Which is column 2 and false. Actually, this is not good. Well, this is a problem of lists, but it should work. 1 second. This is a classic problem of cleaning data, which I should have checked. It's my fault. But your data, the VLOOKUP function, as you can tell, is working on some, not all, because the regions, I believe, are just English constituencies. And that theory is borne out, or just this is not a complete list of constituencies, and none of them are there. So it's only 180, so I don't know why we have it, but we're not going to use it anymore. Sorry for that. That shouldn't have been included, but that is one of the problems, and it told you where the errors were. Okay, so if we space them out and open them up, another problem you could potentially see is it's miss a beg because of the slightly patriarchal system we have in this country, but this is how they are actually recorded, so we'll leave it at that. You could delimit them further by using the spaces and then concatenating the first X amount of cells, but that would be difficult. Right, what else can we do? We can turn, if we select this column, we can turn it into numerical values, which or commaed, and I don't like counting. We'll change it into number, but we get rid of. We'll go for counting, but we'll do it without. No, we don't want counting. We don't want those, and we just now have a comma. I think commas are. It sounds very basic and cliche, but commas are a very important aspect of presenting data cleanly, because they, at least presents a visual gap for people. And the last thing that we're going to do on this is we're going to put an approximate amount of voters in, just because it provides context. We have realized that we can't give a completely accurate amount because of the data. My phone didn't die. I don't know what happened. Okay.
Hello?
Hello, hello.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, I think the signal died.
Yeah.
Right, the last. Ben, is Ben there still?
Yeah, he's still here, yeah.
Does he still want me to go with VLOOKUPs?
No, it's all right. I think you covered it. You went back when you went back up short. You covered it, yeah.
Okay, and this is well, this provides a moment to touch on two things. Firstly, any data set you're trying to use, it's worth getting something to compare it to validate it, because otherwise it's really irrelevant or has the danger of being wrong, and that's something you need to be very careful of. So we have to remember that, and this is proven by Ashley, who cleaned this data beforehand to check it worked, found information which told us the amount of valid votes and the amount of rejected votes within a constituency. And this provides us with two important pieces of information. Firstly, as we already covered earlier, we couldn't get the amount of valid votes from our data. You'd have to get that from somewhere else, and we knew nothing about rejected votes. Because
actually, John, he wants VLOOKUP. He wants you to go over again.
Okay, I'll cover VLOOKUP one last time in a second. But rejected votes, which aren't counted as part of the turnout because they're classed as spoiled ballots, but they're only counted for completeness purposes, we wouldn't have got anything on. But we can briefly get an approximate voter amount. Voter count would go for. And as I referred to, this is a 60.9, so we have to turn that into a percentageable figure. But if we do, that's our size of electorate over divided by, so / this, and you divide by 100. No, so you just type in the numbers. That's me doing it stupidly. And you times that, you then get this figure of 30,960. And if we put the comma and go back down, we now have an approximate voter count. It's not completely accurate, but it provides us with a useful figure. And it at least provides us with context on roughly how many voters bother to turn out. And to show the vagaries of data, sometimes for Aberconway it's 20,966. 20,966. We have the exact figure. It's just down to rounding how it comes out, and when you're dealing with any number of any vague size, and you just need to do this, it will come out with rounding errors on occasion. Sometimes it won't. There's really not much you can do about it. It's just part of data. It's just part of how numbers work. If you ever have, none of you will have, but if you ever experience council finances have huge problems on this, because they do not accept rounding differences, but the percentages create rounding differences, so it creates a real problem for local councils and a lot of additional bureaucracy, just because you really wanted to know that. But it's more to prove the point. And okay, now I've got this through, but Ben, what I will do is I will show you VLOOKUP again, but with the full party names. I've already got it, but we'll just go over this again, because VLOOKUP is hard and it isn't obviously intuitive. So the first part of your VLOOKUP is always the code or identifier. In our case here, it is Labour, or it's Lab Con LD DUP SMP. That's the value we're looking for, and it's going to pull off. And it will do the same if you look for that and the column that you want from the data. So if we now go into party abbreviations, if we wanted, it's not relevant to what we have, but if we wanted to know how many animals count candidates, no, they didn't want to see it, so it doesn't work. How many Conservative candidates stood in our across the country, we would be able to look that up off the column. The only problem with VLOOKUP is you do need to sometimes, you'll need to do an individual VLOOKUP or columns of VLOOKUPs for every column of data that you want, because it can't do it across multiple columns, but it will look up every value from that column. So it's really not very difficult to change, as you'd only need to change the column count. And what we can do here usefully, this isn't important for our current data, but I'll show you it now because it's useful. There's a function called equal columns. Equal columns tells you how many columns there are. So B tells you that B is the second column, and we go equal columns again, B to C, it's 3. Because I can't spell column. Now, why we want this is that VLOOKUP is you need to know the exact column your data is in for VLOOKUPs. But if you have 50 different columns and are on AE as your column of the data that you want to be able to find a quick way to tell you the columns. Now, if you just type in equals columns and then select all the columns up until the point your data starts, this formula will produce that value for you. There's a comparable one called equal rows, which is useful again. So you just pick 4 rows and it'll tell you how many, 6 rows. It's just a useful formula to know how it exists. And it's very useful when you're doing VLOOKUP. So I hope that helps you, and I hope that was of relevance. But then, so we're going to do this one last time for Ben. And it equals VLOOKUP. That's your formula. Then you look at your lookup value is lab. It can be anything. Then you need to select your table array. Your table array is the data you're searching through. If you click on that, it will say raw data. I personally think it works more smoothly if you just if you delete that and just use the top function to set the entire data set. I just think for some reason for me, it works more accurately. But I'm in raw data, I shouldn't be in raw data. So that's my error. But it needs to be party abbreviations. Basically, single inverted comma, party abbreviations, inverted comma, exclamation mark tells you it's that spreadsheet. But it just works more reliably within this. And then you need to know the column index number is the one that you're looking for. So as you can see currently on my screen, column A is where the values are, but that's only that's the identifier it's looking for. It will take column A as the first value and pull off that. It's now looking for within this, but it always starts at 1 is the code, and that's why you always have to have columns with the code or identifier. But then you have animals count. You have the party name / description, and so that's the second column. Minimal, you always use the second column, and then at the end you have what's called the range lookup. False means it will search for exact matches. True means it will search for inexact matches. You always want to use false pretty much because false will search accurately. If you use the true function, it estimates and it doesn't work. I don't know exactly why it refuses to work for anybody, but it does. And then you can see here, we've now found the Labour Party again, and that we put in front of the numbers, I believe, $signs, because when we drag down, we don't want the numbers to change, because otherwise it creates a reference error, and you produce the exact same figures through. So the VLOOKUP, it's summarized, is searching for Labour as a party tag within the second column of the data, and if it sees lab tagged into that through column 1, it pulls over column 2. So if you had, if you're looking at NHS data, or in this data, the party names, it's looking to identify is that one string, and it will pull it over, because as long as it's a unique string, it will work perfectly. And we used that again earlier to find our 2005 winner, because we wanted to see what the cell value was. And you can use it for exact terms, but we use it for cell. So we wanted to find out the cell value of 2005 lab, which was our B23, and then we wanted to pull it across. So the VLOOKUP function there worked to find out what was in a certain cell here, and then put it into that cell, rather than having to copy and paste it across messily. It's just a quicker way to solve problems. Does that explain it better?
John time.
Hi. Right, do we need anything more done?
No, that's it.
Okay, well, I'll delete that. If you wanted to present this more nicely, you could. You could delete party. I wouldn't bother, because you can hide it later. You could delete the campaign numbers, but you have pretty much all the data you need here, and it is exactly the same as clean data, though I haven't got a couple of things which didn't exist. But you could put it into, you could delete row 1 and put it into a table, which might be nice, because tables do look nice. What I just clicked? So I've clicked a button which is going to slow down, but we're not going to do that. Tables, I like black.
John, I want a picture of you.
Yeah, you'll see a picture of me in a second. You now have a table exists, just it makes it look smarter, but you don't have that. And basically how you do that. Okay, if any more questions on the data, put them in and I'll respond to them, but if not, I will go to a screenshot of me. Hello?
Thank you, that's amazing. That's all right.
Right, do we need anything else done?
John, no, that's perfect. We need a picture though. Switch the screen so that we can see your face, and then we're gonna take a picture with you in the middle. In the screen,
So do you want me to take a screenshot of my screen?
Yeah, no, we're gonna do a selfie with you in the screen.
Okay. I'm waving.
Wait, the screen's not caught up yet. It'll take like a second. No. Hold on. The screen is too bright.
He's not here.
You're not here yet. You're not here yet. Hold on. You're still explaining on the screen. Just skip ahead. Hold on. Here you come. Is he on?
Yeah, 1 second, I'm just changing. I'm doing a couple of screenshots for SMC portfolio. Okay, yes, I'm now on. I'm just sitting here waiting to be seen by you.
Yeah, it's gonna take like a second. No, I'm skipping ahead to try and create the process.
John arrived.
Yeah.
So wait.
Maybe put it on the YouTube to skip like that ahead.
Yeah, I'm waving now.
In there.
Face your back, please. So
Yeah. Look back. Sit back a bit.
sit back.
Sit back a bit. Your hands covering your face.
I'm now sitting back on my stream.
Not on ours.
No, yeah. No, it's beautiful, John. Don't worry. Your beautiful login coming over the top there. It's like you were golden. Absolutely amazing. Really, really well done, John. Yep. Yeah. Beautiful child, John.
Is it all done?